All right, at 6 o'clock, I will call the July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. This evening, we have Pastor Tim Irving of the Wytheville Baptist Church to offer an invocation. If you would, please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Let us pray. Lord God Almighty, we come tonight and ask for your wisdom. We ask for your insight for the business of this county. We pray that words would be said that could help things to progress forward in the ways that are best for the citizens of this county. We thank you for all that you've done for us and the way that you watch over us and guide us in all that we do. And we pray this in Jesus Christ's name tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is citizens' time. We have two people signed up to speak. The first one is Mr. Derek Ball.
Good evening. How are you all doing today? Good. Good evening. My name is Derek Ball. I'm a sophomore at George Wythe High School, and my address is 290 Cove Hills Drive here in Wytheville. And tonight I'd like to speak to you, the board, about the new Virginia law 22.1-23.3. This law is creating special accommodations for the transgender students of the county, and me, along with several other parents, students, and faculty at Wythe County Public Schools are outraged and really disappointed in the board's decision on these policies. I've spoken with many students and some parents as well on the policies, and they're outraged about it, as well as I've spoken to faculty. 22 teachers, 17 students, and 14 parents. I think those numbers are right. I'm really sorry if they're not. Tonight I ask you as the board, what policies can we implement and put forth that would stop our school board from keeping these policies in place that they've currently passed and for the state of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Derek.
you. Next person on the list is Ms. Meyer.
Well, I'd like to speak to you on the same note also, and two meetings ago, I brought you the Carroll County resolution concerning the policies and the mandates, and there were over 200 people last week that came out to a meeting. It was very successful, and they are not in favor of the school board's policies and mandates federally, statewide, and certainly what they've tried putting forth here. So I'd like to encourage you to look at that resolution from Carroll County again and to give that your utmost, put it on your important side. And we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. That's all we have signed up on the sheet for citizens' time, so I'll close citizens' time. The next item on the agenda is the payment of invoices.
I'll make a motion, Peg.
Have a motion by Mr. McRoberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any invoice any supervisor wants to pull out or discuss? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
So approved. Next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting, July the 13th, 2021. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Horny. Is there any corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Terry.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So approved. Moving on to old business, the first item is appointments. Mr. Barrett, do you have any information?
We have a WCC vacancy, and I think Mr. Smith has a nomination.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to nominate Davis Goforth for the open position at WCC.
Have a motion by Supervisor Smith to appoint Davis Goforth to the WCC Board. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Have a second by Mr. McRoberts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Goforth.
Good man.
Anything else under old business, Mr. Barrett?
I do not have any other old business, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on to reports, the first item is our treasurer report. Ms. Gwen, I thought I seen you sneak in.
Speak this early in the night.
Mr. Horny doesn't want to go home and break beans, so we're all doing our best to.
Well, I had a short report. If I would have known that about 30 minutes ago, I could have helped him out a little bit better. So I'll try to make it short and sweet this time because I know I normally ramble too much and all that. So with your financial report this time that was included in your packet for the month of June, which is also, of course, year end, the consolidated account contained a balance of $64,672,330, and of that, the general fund contained a balance of $41,360,926. So we're working on year-end stuff as well as Ms. Williams and her staff, and kind of coordinating all we can to get ready for audit in October. We're scheduled for audit in October, so that's more or less the gist of what I had, other than I did want to thank the board for, in addition to funding the raises that the comp board had given to employees, but also given raises to the county employees as well. Fortunately, this year, one of my previously county-funded employees was picked up by the comp board, so now I only have one employee that's fully county-funded. And I do appreciate the raise that she received. Her base pay that's outlined by the comp board is much lower than what the current pay is, but I do appreciate this board and previous boards for working over the last few years to increase the pay of the employees. It's really helped a lot in trying to acquire somebody and retain them in the office, so I do appreciate that. The only other thing I have coming up, just for general information, last meeting that I was here, we had just had a tax sale. So I do have circuit court confirmations next week on those parcels to confirm those sales. And then by the end of August, we should receive that revenue coming in to clear out all of those taxes for the majority of those parcels. Some of them did not garner enough money to clear the tax debt and other debts, so there will be some tax write-offs, but our ultimate goal in the end is to get it back into the hands of a taxpayer that will pay the taxes on it. So that's more or less all that I have at this point, unless you have questions for me or something that I didn't mention that's been on your mind.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just make comment, the cash fund balance also does include $2,785,000 plus of our first payment of the American Rescue Plan Act. It is under its own line item in there and separated out.
And that's on the midway about.
Yeah, page 2.
58.
Yeah, whether you're on
Or
the treasurer's
page 2
report or
or
even the financial report of Ms. Williams's, you're gonna be on about page 2, 3, 4, depends on which document you're on.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Gwen? I did notice, I think you got a sign down East Lee Highway, tax sale sign.
On the right?
Yeah,
Okay,
and I apologize. I was halfway back to Whitfield for
no, that's okay.
it hit me. I was like, why didn't I stop and pick it up?
Well, I'll normally go back out and pick them up, and the last time when I went back out, all of them were gone, which I think some probably disappeared after they got put up, so it's interesting to know that that one's still up, but I'll make a trip down there, try to go down tomorrow
They
and
make
get that
good
picked up.
targets too.
What?
They make good targets too.
We'll reuse that sign for the next sale. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lord.
you.
Next item on reports is the Water Committee report.
The
Water Committee met on July the 20th, 2021, and recommended the following. Writing off $1,095.02 in penalties and interest incurred on account number 103240-00, Billy C. and Bonnie Barker. The Barkers have agreed to pay the final billing amount of $106.04.
Coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
Second thing was the Board of Supervisors authorized staff with assistance from Thrasher to proceed with funding application for alternative number 2 based on the sanitary sewer evaluation.
Mr. Barrett, you want to explain that one?
Yes, I will. Mr. Crisp is on vacation, so he is not able to be here tonight. But for the hard questions you all asked, Zach Wright from Thrasher is sitting here in the audience as well. Thrasher did the sanitary sewer evaluation, and Zach, I'll ask you to come on up here to the podium, and you can fill in for my mistakes. But basically, they looked at all of the manholes between Progress Park, Max Meadows, in Max Meadows, all the way out to 86. Basically, the entire system looked at where it had sanitary sewer inflow, infiltration into the system, and came up with an entire list of manholes, pump stations, everything that needed to be looked at. And there were 3 options looked at, from everything to a midpoint, which is the recommendation for number 2, which comes out to about $1.2 million. And I'll let Zach fill in where I'm leaving out information.
Yeah, Stephen's basically right. We did the full evaluation of the sanitary system, including lift stations. We did smoke testing throughout the system, put flow measurement in certain areas in the system to determine where there was high areas of inflow and infiltration, which is just water getting into the sewer system that shouldn't be getting into the sewer system. Like Stephen said, we identified 3 options, called the Cadillac, the GMC, and the Chevy. And the Cadillac was to basically upgrade everything in the system that had a problem, whether it was a major contributor to I&I or not, even if it had potential to contribute to I&I. The Chevy version was the bare minimum, were things that were in trouble spots, that had significant problems, that were certainly contributing to I&I and needed attention. And the mid ground was the project that the committee has recommended. It's kind of the mid ground between the two. It'll solve most. We believe it'll solve about 99% of your I&I problems. Doesn't get things that are high and dry, even though there may be some repairs that can be done through routine maintenance and things like that.
And the funding we're applying for, we are anticipating, like the Austensville project that we did, to be somewhere in the 40 to 50% range of loan forgiveness. So basically a grant in some respects on that, and us been half of it. So Don and Zach have spent numerous hours meeting and going through, paring down the list to get down to what we feel is most beneficial to take care of majority of our problems and our major problems. And after having several meetings with them, I concur with the recommendations they came forward with and that the committee recommends for this step number 2.
Something else to consider. I mean, we'll take this the next step. We'll design plans for a contractor to come out and take care of these things. And through that process, if we pare it down more or we get really good bids in, if you approve this $1.2 million project and it ends up being an $800,000 project, you're not committed to spending more money than the project costs. So we're being a little conservative on the cost there, just to make sure we cover everything that would be necessary to do a good job.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Barrett or the expert? All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Do a roll call vote, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
All right, thank you all.
Anything else under Water Committee report, Mr. Horny?
That was it.
All right, moving on to new business. First item is a consent calendar. Entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So I make that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. McRoberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is the Staff Street Transportation Service District petition. Mr. Bear,
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have Mr. Crougy in attendance with us tonight. As you all may remember, Staff Street was originally approved for revenue sharing. Anticipated originally to be funding this year for it. VDOT did a bait and switch on us, and the funding was moved out to 2024-25. Mr. Crougy Leadmine's estates wanted to proceed with going ahead and building the road up to state maintained standards on their own. They have actually completed the construction on that. At this point in time, the road looks very nice, and I'm assuming it's completed. I assume everything's done, but the road looks good. Mr. Crougy has presented a petition for the creation of the Transportation Service District. As you can see from the petition, all but I believe one landowner signed the petition down through there. So it meets the requirements for the 50% landowners and 50% land mass. Staff's recommendation would be to proceed with setting a public hearing for August 24th, 2021.
entertain a motion to set the public hearing for August the 24th, 2021 for the Staff Street Transportation Service District.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. McRoberts. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is the Wythe Bland Foundation grant.
I will defer to Mr. Hankins on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It is time to be submitting applications to the Wythe Land Foundation. The staff, Mr. Williams and Ms. Sweeney, have been working on getting quotes for updating the playground equipment at Ager Park, and they would like to submit the grant for that. It's due on Sunday, but it requires a resolution from this board authorizing the application. So we would ask that you authorize the staff to apply for the funding.
I don't think you'll find any argument. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving the application to the Wythe Bland Foundation.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Everybody cross your fingers. Certainly needs to be replaced. Next item is a proposed ordinance to exempt certain charitable organizations from food inspection. Mr. Bear, is this Mr. Hankins?
Mr.
Me again.
Yes.
This is one that came to us from the Health Department. They suggested that we consider adopting an ordinance similar to one that Grayson County adopted. State code allows you to exempt certain organizations and events from taxation, or from inspection of kitchens for food preparation. And the example they gave us is the Lord's Acre sale. If you're going to bring together a group of churches to do a sale, technically the members of the churches who prepare food for sale are supposed to get their home kitchens inspected. This would exempt them from some of those requirements. It seems like a common sense sort of thing, but we wanted to bring it to you, see if you wanted to consider it, to refer it to committee, or to have your attorney further review it.
Mr. Bear,
My recommendation
Set a
would
pu-
be
do we have
set
to
a
have a
public
public
hearing
hearing? Yeah.
for this. We could do it I would still do it August 24th meeting. That still gives us plenty of time, gives us time to get the ordinance into effect. Scott has looked at it. Mr. Farley, I don't think has any objections to it, but we'll do that. But I would just recommend setting a public hearing for August 24th also for this.
I mean, I know when I was on the Fire Association, we had to go through it, and I know Mr. Horny with the Saddle Club, I think y'all have done it too, so.
Yeah.
I don't have-
There are a lot of,
I was just wondering, would this affect like, I mean, it won't now because we aren't gonna do it fast enough, but like Heritage Days this weekend, there's groups that'll sell food and stuff up there, would it affect them?
if it's a nonprofit event for a nonprofit purpose, there are a lot of organizations that are already exempt under state code, youth sports concessions, volunteer fire departments for the events like you all did on Friday. Those are already exempt under state code, but for whatever reason, fairs for nonprofits require a local ordinance to be able to exempt.
I entertain a motion to set the public hearing for August the 24th, 2021 for this exemption ordinance.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Horny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any further discussion or questions? Here now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is the 2020 delinquent real estate and personal property taxes.
Mr. Chairman, historically, the board has printed the real estate in the newspaper and posted online the real estate and personal property. If you want to continue this process again this year, I would recommend that you all authorize staff to proceed with posting, and I would request that it be as of August 1st or whatever. That way it'd be at the end of this week. That way we can run updated list of what's paid, and the fewer names that are on it, the cheaper it is for us to post it. So,
Entertain a motion to authorize staff to print and post the list.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second, if that was for August 1st.
Yeah, I'm
it's-
sorry.
Yeah, as of, updated as of,
August
oh,
1st.
you'll do-
It usually depends on when Ms. Collins can get it scheduled with the newspaper
Right.
as to what their publication timeline is, and then generally she'll let me know, and then we try to get it as soon as we can. So it's kind of going to be dependent upon.
so we'll say no sooner than August 1st. That gets everybody through the end of this week to pay.
Yes.
And then if we can't get it advertised till the 10th, we'll cut it off on the 6th or whatever.
Yeah, I like that because last year there were a few people that were on the list. They had paid the next day after the meeting, and then
Right.
you get a lot of calls saying, I paid that, but my name was in the paper, so, yeah.
And you can move it out if y'all want. I mean, if you want to put the August 10th, and then, and we can advertise it after that. That's
Or
fine.
How soon do they normally allow you to schedule it, Ms. Collins? I think we can talk about it.
I'm fine with August 1st. I don't want to mess up what they have going on, but I do think giving it a couple of days
Or
helps.
I'll work with Ms. Collins to see what date she can secure, and then we, generally, if it's, for example, a Saturday publication, I think she has to have it sent in by like on Wednesday. So we would have to pull the reports on Monday in order to prepare them to forward on to Ms. Collins.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be,
Yeah.
So it's,
I doubt it's going to be
I'm sure
August
they're
1st.
gonna have open
Yeah.
space, but you never know. It is political season, somebody may have a big ad, take up that space instead.
So I'll second that.
Does that change your motion, Mr. Terry?
No, sir, it does.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Terry and a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on the agenda, staff reports. Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of getting Mr. Orney home to break beans, I'll be brief. Just a couple of highlights. We are continuing to work on our broadband project. We've delayed things a little bit because we were waiting to see what the governor in the General Assembly decide to do on funding. The current request is that they're going to put $700 million toward broadband development statewide in addition to the $100 million that they had set aside in the current biennium. So they'll be looking at a pretty substantial infusion of capital. Their goal is to get universal broadband coverage in Virginia by 2024. My goal is to win a gold-plated Corvette and be able to fit into it by 2024. You all can guess about which one of those might really happen. But we are going to work with the Office of Broadband and get our application in so that we can get some of our funding and hopefully offset some of what we've got coming in through the ARPA so that we can do more infrastructure projects rather than spend that ARPA money on broadband. Other noticeable thing, we are soliciting for fire apparatus at the guidance of the Fire and Rescue Committee. We are soliciting for 2 pumper tankers, one for Speedwell, one for Ivanhoe, a brush truck for Ivanhoe, and a command center trailer for Mr. McCabe and the Sheriff's Office to split jointly. So that's the highlights. You've got the rest of the report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you got.
I will comment while he's got the fire truck proposal out. We also have requests out to local banks, any bank that's interested, for financing proposals for about the $800,000 that we're anticipating that to cost us. So rural development is always an option as well, but if we have competitive rates from our banks, we will probably bring forth a recommendation to look at doing it with a bank.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
County Administrator, Mr. Barrier.
First item, you have a request from the Commonwealth attorneys to transfer the amount of $1,025 from the asset forfeiture account to the general fund to be amended and appropriated to his budget line item 457055 for the payment of dues. Would request you all approve the transfer and the amendment and appropriation.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Go ahead, or have a motion by Mr. Smith, have a second,
I'll second.
have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Aye. So approved.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, and you can take them separately, you can take them together if you'd like. The first, been sharing information with you all about the state law changes in compensatory time. Our current personnel policy covers how we provide compensatory time in lieu of overtime. Per the change in the state law, that is no longer allowed. And so all employees must be paid overtime in compliance with the Fair Labor Standard Act. I would request your all's approval of this policy amendment on compensatory time. In addition, you have the updated holiday schedule with the changes that came out of the General Assembly in this year on the holidays. It includes the Juneteenth holiday and also the Election Day holiday, which we had previously put in there. I would request the board approve both of these personnel policy amendments. Be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any exceptions on the compensatory time?
The only exceptions are basically law enforcement and firefighting. We don't have any firefighters that we are paying on full-time wages right now, so it doesn't apply to us on that. And the law enforcement falls under the sheriff's personnel policy, not under our personnel policy. So
And that is?
they are paid overtime, and the law enforcement still has availability of certain compensatory time that they can take also.
So the deputies that are working overtime are getting paid overtime, not having to take time off to...
Correct. They virtually for us, no one can take time in lieu of overtime payment from the county administration side at this time.
Mr. Baird, and I'll channel my predecessor for a minute on the holiday schedule.
Yeah.
Historically, Dr. Hausman always brought up Good Friday.
I was
Yes,
just
sir.
about
And
to say that.
since he left the board, we've always done it since I've been on the board. Can we just go ahead and knock that out?
You could add that to this list, Mr. Chairman, and that would take care of it. Yes, sir. Good idea.
I think it's nice for the employees to have, you
Yeah.
know in advance, have a long weekend to travel or whatever they want to do for Easter.
I would request you all approve post policy amendments with the amendment with the correction to add the Good Friday holiday in there.
I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Ms. Lawson and a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. I'm always so worried I'll forget about Good Friday. Usually Ms. Lawson will
We
remember.
catch it, a week before every time.
I think it was Charles Dix actually before.
Before Dr. Hausman,
Before
yeah, I
Dr.
think
Hausman
you're right.
would bring that up, so yeah. The next item is just informational item, I report on the January day meeting. I had just a list of project overviews and
Mr.
things.
Barrett, you skipped ahead.
Oh.
Skip number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. What do I get for jumping ahead? Oh, yeah, there is one more action item. In order for staff to enjoin all of you all that may be able to join us this Friday, will you all close the office this Friday afternoon for our
So
county
moved.
picnic?
The county picnic's at 12:30, right?
We're starting at 1 o'clock, yes.
One.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion?
So what time? 12, 1?
Well,
11 or
We're
12?
going to close the office at 12,
12.
and then the picnic will start.
It gives everyone plenty of time to get to Foster Falls.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Now go ahead, Mr.
Thank y'all very much for catching that. The last thing, as I was saying, at the beginning of the year, I just had a list of projects of things we were trying to do, things that were on the list. And this didn't even cover all of them. Mr. Hankins has covered broadband and some of the others. Just an update on a lot of them. A lot of them are in process or bids awarded, construction underway. If you have any questions on any of them, let me know now, let me know later, anything you would like.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Barrett? Thank you, sir. County Attorney, Mr. Farthing.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to report at this time unless you have questions for me.
Anything on the opioid lawsuit? I read a,
I've not heard from our Wagstaff law firm. I've seen the newspaper article.
on the Virginia settlement, yeah. I didn't know if that was connected to the
It should be.
localities or.
I just haven't heard from our council yet. So I'll send them a follow-up email and see what's going on.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Farthing? Next item, well, before we move to the next item, Major Klein, you have anything?
No, I'm just gonna get a list of roads that need to be cleaned up.
I sent out an email. Did you get any response? Does anybody have any roads?
Yeah, I sent Major Klein a road going on
Mr. Klein, if at any time they're coming and you don't get a list of roads anywhere near any of our trash and recycling centers, is always recommended, if you don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
The goats in Speedwell are keeping the road clean.
Ms. Vaught, I seen you back there. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything unless somebody's got some questions.
How's reassessment going?
It's going on. They're doing a good job this time, I think.
And we have a guest, and I cannot remember your name. We have the school board student rep, Lucas Arnold. knew it as well as I knew my own, but when you get this my age, you'll do that. So. Welcome. Have you attended your first school board meeting? Come back anytime. Next item is board reports, Board of Supervisors time. Mr. Terry,
I don't have anything at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Horny.
I believe I have anything to say.
I bet you don't. Mr. McRoberts.
I have a meeting in the morning at 10 o'clock on VDOT Blair Road. Anybody wants to come, go right ahead.
Are you trying to get it put on or something done with it?
I hope they get the water straightened out so don't wash that woman's well out away. That's what
Mr.
she
McRoberts has been working on that for a long time.
got. Yeah. And probably gonna be there a lot longer.
Anything else, Mr. McRoberts?
I'm sorry?
Anything else?
No, I'm done, thank you.
Ms. Lawson?
I don't have anything at this time.
Mr. Cook?
I have nothing at this time.
Come on, Jamie.
And I'll be quick so Gene can get the breaking beans. I did have some residents off of Doe Run reach out. They're interested in getting water down in that area. I think they're having some trouble with some wells in that part of the county, so especially with the heat that we've had over the last 30 days or so. They did reach out this afternoon, so I told them I'd bring it up. And then I spoke with Mr. Barrett earlier, and I don't know if Mr. McRoberts heard me or not, but Ghent Lane, I think it's Ghent Lane off of 94. The road has been paved. They paved it just as Mr. Crouch and them did their road. However, they didn't get it state maintained, and they're looking to get it state maintained now, or let the state take it over to become state maintained. So they did reach out on that one. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Barrett, Lake Mount Airy Road, the other day they closed the railroad crossing, Retreat, Main and
Okay.
Church.
Yeah.
Can we have a conversation with Mr. Fowler about possibly widening that road? And I know probably gonna have to get the landowner involved, but I think with the current landowner and the size of his farming equipment, he may be willing to sit down and have that conversation. Because it's, just for emergency vehicles, I mean, you either go across Philippi or Lake Mount Airy. It's, depending on which side of the Main Street your house is burning down on, it's a long way. And that's,
And continues growing in.
so, I know last year when it was shut down, and I tried to cross it and met a gentleman in Gooseneck, and that poor guy was just delivering cattle. He had no clue what was coming from the other end. And, I mean, there's no place to pull over. It's, that's the only thing on the roads. And by Mr. Barrett, Mr. Hankins, I just want to thank both of you for what you do. I know we kind of may seem like we don't appreciate you, but, the reports that y'all been putting together, especially since we've hired Mr. Hankins and freed you up, there's been a lot of progress made in this county in the past few months. A lot more than it, had been in previous time. And, whether we say it or not, in passing, we notice it, or I do. I'm sure everybody else does. So I just want to say thank y'all for what you do. I know it's taken a little bit off of Martha too.
On behalf of all staff, we thank you. I mean, there's a lot of projects going on, and having more staff has made a difference, and less turnover's made a difference. So thank you all for what you all do, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Man, it is.
And I
Go ahead, Mr. McCroft.
would like to say, I think you made a fine decision when you put David Scoforth on that Whitfield Community College Board. There ain't a man in this country that works any harder. 5 o'clock in the morning, dark, every day, 7 days a week. I think it was one of the best decisions that we have made since I've been on this board. And I thank you.
Yeah, and I know he's excited to get on the board. I know I've spoken with him several times. I know Mr. Bear has, and he talked to some other people about it, and he's excited. It's good to have that agriculture representative on that board. So I think it'll work out well for the community and the county with having Davis on there. So.
Well, we tried to find somebody that was ag-related, and we found one.
You got it.
I think it'll be good. Good, and I know it's early, but anybody have anything else? We'll be adjourned.